there, I'm Quint from DIY Money, and I got to tell you, over the last 20 plus years, I've seen a lot of people try to go down the budget road, almost like it's a bad word. And the ideal situation, or what you hear people say, is, I got to get on a budget. I spend so much money, I run out of money before I run out of month. I need a budget. The problem is that most people don't know how to start a budget, to actually begin a budget. So here are the top 5 steps you need to follow if you want to get on a successful budget. Step number 1, track your expenses. You cannot create a budget unless you know where your money goes. At the beginning of the month, start tracking your expenses. Literally write down everything you spend. You can do this in a notepad. You can do this on an Excel sheet. There's a couple of apps out there that are really good, but what you want to do is track the expenses, and you want to feel it. You want to do it yourself. Don't let somebody else do it. Don't have your bank categorize or put those into buckets or any of that stuff. Track the expenses. What that will do will allow you to start to see exactly where your money is going. Step number 2, start to classify those expenses. There's really 2 classifications. There's fixed expenses and there's variable expenses. Fixed expenses happen the same way basically every month. They're the same amount. That could be your rent. It could be your cell phone bill. It could be your mortgage. It could be anything that is fixed that you know is going to be paid on a monthly basis. Those are the first classification. The second classification are variable. These are within your control, or maybe like utilities. Maybe they're not necessarily in your control, but they still fluctuate. When you can start to classify those variable expenses, you can then start to go, oh my goodness, I'm spending a tremendous amount of money eating out. Maybe I want to cut back there. Maybe I want to curtail all the auto gas that I'm spending, whatever it may be. So again, the first thing is to track expenses. The second thing is to classify those expenses. And the third thing is to begin to categorize those expenses. This is going to be different for everyone. It's why I don't necessarily like all the budgeting apps that are out there. The categories that I use, you may not use. I had 3 kids in diapers at one time. We had a category for diapers. Literally every month, we knew how much we had to budget for diapers. Those same 3 kids are now in sports. I have a category called sports. I also have unique categories like a Christmas fund. Starting in January, we put money away every single month for Christmas. How many times does Christmas roll around? You're like, holy crap, I don't have any money for Christmas. On the credit card. No, that's what a budget's for. Categories for us include things like tithing or giving to our church, putting money away for ourselves. We put money away every single month. It's an expense. It's a line item. We like to say we pay ourselves second, not first, but second, but it's a category. Then we go on down. We don't have debt, so thankfully we don't have things like a mortgage or rent, but we do have things like utilities. We have things like cable, internet, etc. So categorizing those expenses are absolutely huge. Step number 4, you have to find margin. Margin is the difference between the income and the outgo. There's an old saying, if your outgo exceeds your income, the upkeep will be your downfall. So the reality is you have to have a positive margin. There's 2 ways you can have a positive margin. You can cut your way to margin. You can basically look at all these expenses and go, do I really need Netflix? Do I really need Hulu? Do I really need all this gym membership, all this other nonsense eating out? You might be able to cut your way to margin. But what happens if you've cut, you still have no margin? Then you've got to create it on the income side. Newsflash, never been a better time to pick up a side gig, a side hustle, and make additional income. That's how you can create margin. Margin is important, so you can then follow the 5th critical step in budgeting, which is to prioritize the margin. Where does the margin go? We like to say the top 3 spots it goes in the beginning are first, some fast cash on the side, second, emergency fund, and third, debt reduction. But you can do none of that if you do not have margin. So again, the top 5 steps to getting on a successful budget. Number 1, track your expenses. Number 2, classify those expenses. Number 3, categorize those expenses. Number 4, find that margin. Margin is magic. And number 5, prioritize that margin in the right order. Newsflash, this never ends. You Follow this process until you reach all your financial goals, and I promise you, if you go down this path, you will reach those financial goals.